So welcome back to Street Switch Photography. We've just had an update about the Epping Hotel in Loughborough or Essex, whichever one it is. And I thought I'd do a quick video about it. Let's roll the intro. So welcome back to Street Switch Photography. We've got an update on the Epping Hotel and about the migrants that are actually staying at that hotel. There was another court order that went through and they were trying to get them thrown out. This is the update that we've had today, and this is from GB News. Let's take a listen and let's see what you guys think. The live comments is actually active, so you can start chatting in there if you want. So here we go.
Breaking news in the last hour. Essex Council has indeed lost its bid for a High Court injunction, all to block asylum seekers from being housed in the Bell Hotel in Epping.
Right, well, let's speak to our GB News Home and Security Editor, Mark White, who is here to tell us more. Mark.
Well, there will be a lot of angry and disillusioned people in Epping, there is no doubt. Although, to be honest, I don't think they held out much hope of a positive outcome from this High Court ruling today, given the ruling.
So let's just get a few things clear first. It was actually the council that put in to get these people banned from this hotel from staying in there, the illegal migrants. Again, they crossed the channel illegally. They entered this country illegally. They've been staying in Epping Hotel illegally, where one asylum seeker decided to abuse a child recently, and he was let out of prison and then got deported. This is why residents are so angry and everything else, and why they want this hotel shutting down. Now, I said this, it must have been 3 months ago. This hotel should not still be open. In fact, let's be honest, none of them should.
That was handed down in August by the Court of Appeal when they overturned the earlier injunction that banned the use of the Bell Hotel in Epping for use by asylum seekers. They said at the time that they believed that ruling, that earlier High Court ruling, had been seriously flawed in principle, and that has effectively been upheld in today's decision, which said that an injunction was not the appropriate means of enforcing planning controls. Now, we've had a statement through from the Home Office reacting to this decision today. They say, "We are furious at the level of illegal migrants and asylum hotels in this country. This government will close every asylum hotel. Work is well underway to move asylum seekers into more suitable accommodation, such as military bases, to ease pressure on communities across the country." The statement finishes by saying, "We're working to do so as swiftly as possible as part of an orderly, planned and sustained programme. This judgment allows us to do that." I have to say that this has descended into a bit of an unseemly row now.
Now, what we do know about the Epping Hotel in Essex is that there's been multiple protests outside that hotel. The police, there's been a lot of two-tier policing as well. When the Epping Hotel was first obviously opened and then closed and then reopened and the protests started, at one point a migrant was seen entering a school premises or a school grounds, and the teachers had to get all the children under the table whilst the parents stood outside of this school wondering what the hell was going on, all because one of these migrants was seen entering the school grounds. That is disgusting. They should have shut this hotel months ago, had done and over, get it done and over with, and get rid of all these sodding migrants that are causing these problems. Now, I'm not saying it's all of the migrants at that hotel, but when they're coming over on boats, throwing the passports in the water on the way over the channel, there's a good majority of them that are going to be here for an ulterior motive or for basically reasons that they're not really telling us. We've already had a couple of comments. Again, I haven't actually been on YouTube for over a week because of something I said. I've been watching the amount of coaches and have been coming in. It's a joke. Yeah, that'd also be at Canary Wharf as well. There's a Canary Wharf, which I think is one of the main hubs for some of the migrants actually coming in. Let's go back over to the GB News and see what they actually say about it. This is disgusting. Absolutely shocking.
between the Conservatives and Labour. We've had this statement through from the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp. He says, the people, this is a dark day for democracy, that the people of Epping have been silenced in their own town. Their council fought for them. Their voices were ignored. Labour lawyers...
Now, if you notice that, basically their local council did fight for them. Local councils haven't got a lot of power. The reason these hotels are wanting to be shut is because it's illegal for these. It's something to do with multiple occupancy. Multiple occupancy in hotels, they have to have some type of license, and they haven't got that license. So would this be the government breaking the fucking law? Yes, I think it would, wouldn't it?
Fought tooth and nail to keep this hotel open, even after a migrant housed there was jailed for sexually assaulting a teenage girl. Well, in response to that, a Labour source has just said, this is some brass neck from Chris Philp. If he wants to understand why there are so many asylum seekers in hotels, I suggest he casts his mind back to his time in the Home Office. He was the one opening all these hotels. Or perhaps he could ask the Shadow Justice Secretary, Robert Jenrick, who bragged about ramping up their use. Listen, I don't...
Now, what I'm going to say is, over in Epping, it actually is quite a small knit and tight community over there. And they've had all of these migrants dumped on their doorstep. And now with obviously the sexual attack and other things happening when that other migrant entered the school premises or entered the school grounds, it's going to be extremely worrying from the residents, you know, and this is why we get these protests. They start out with small protests. A couple of people stood outside protesting because the migrant hotel is open, probably a couple of auditors there, but then they tend to escalate. So the police and the government seen an opportunity to actually antagonise these people and sent along their own protesters, known as Stop Racism and known as Antifa and things like that. Now, people can fact check me on this if they want. They've all got the same printed banners. The police actually escort them in and out of the area when they've antagonised all of the protesters that are outside the hotel. So the government can turn around and call these protesters far right, along with the BBC, which we all know what the BBC have been doing just recently, don't we? Faking news again. And this is the way it goes. And people like me, 2CTV and other, you know, sort of independent journalists, so I'm not a journalist, so I just say what I see. But these other brilliant independent journalists are the way forward. They're going to start saying it as it is and bringing the truth into light so people can make informed decisions on what it is that's actually happening, the truth.
Think that the people of Epping and elsewhere in the country really want to just see politicians indulge in this kind of, exchanging of cannon fire here over an issue that is so hugely important to communities right around the country. Remember, the Bell Hotel was the epicenter of these protests that then spread right across the country. It was that man, the Ethiopian migrant, Hadush.
This was the same guy that was accidentally on purpose released from prison. There's been a lot more released since accidentally on purpose, and I think personally it's a ploy to try and, introduce us to the digital ID. No one is going to go for the digital ID. That will be another video, but that's the reason I think that some of these people are being released from prison, because you think about it, if we had all these people accidentally on purpose released from prison, we'd be able to get them back straight away if we had the digital IDs, wouldn't we? Do not fall for it. Do not accept the digital ID. Say no to everything that the government are doing. They're full of shit, along with the mainstream media. And if you digest that and actually fall for it, you're extremely weak-minded and you've been brainwashed.
Kabatu, who had assaulted sexually a 14-year-old girl and a woman near the hotel itself, was eventually jailed for 12 months, was mistakenly released, and then, of course,
after 4 months,
eventually removed from the country. But that really focused.
And do you know what they did? They gave him £500 to leave the country as well for the privilege. So basically, he come over here for a free hotel holiday, did what he did, got put in prison, more free accommodation at the taxpayer's expense, and then got given £500 to return to Ethiopia. Now, how much is £500 worth over in Ethiopia? Yeah, exactly. And that was all out of the taxpayer's pocket. And you trust these fuckers?
The concerns of people in Epping and right across the country about the potential dangers of housing all of these young men together in asylum accommodation.
It's an incredibly pressing issue. And Mark, just before...
Now, it's not just this that's been happening over the past few weeks. There's been multiple attacks on people, multiple stabbings and things like that happening in cities, on trains, in London, all over. It's happening every single day now. And I keep saying this, video after video after video. And no one seems to be listening. It's very worrying. It's very, it's become much, much, much more commonplace. We've got a few more comments. I'll read them at the end of the video.
Before you go, is this the end of the road for Epping? I mean, what happens next?
Well, this was a High Court decision. They could go, Epping Forest District Council, back to the Court of Appeal again. But given the Court of Appeal's judgment on the original temporary injunction, I'm not sure they will see that as a potential move. It's possible that...
So there's just been a very good point there. Why didn't they make him do the full sentence? This is Abatu or whatever his name is. Basically, I think he did around 3 to 4 months. And they've got this new scheme called the one in, one out scheme. So we deport one and then they send another one in. So really, we're not really gaining or losing anything because we've got thousands of immigrants coming across the channel anyway. And Keir Starmer was absolutely 100% that this would stop the boats. Yet again, more shit. They do not want to stop the boats. They do not want them to stop the boats because these people coming on the boats are Labour voters. And if they can actually strangle local elections to stop Reform or any other party getting in, that's what they're going to try and do. This is not democracy. This is why people need to start standing up and fighting for their country. And when I say fighting, before the BBC get hold of it, I mean peacefully. So it just astounds me how someone can be so easily brainwashed. I have got probably the lowest IQ in Melton Mowbray, and I basically can see straight through this. It's called common sense. Everybody is so sort of set up on political correctness and everything else. Well, I'm sorry, I can't be like that. I've got to say what I see. That's the only. It's black and white with me. An egg is an egg. If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. The words of the famous Zach Polanski, who believes that a woman can have a willy. But hang on a minute, mate. Didn't you say if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck? Well, in my opinion, if it sounds like a bloke and looks like a bloke, it's a frigging bloke. There you go. That'll be another video.
They could go to the Supreme Court, but look, if they do that, they're spending many, many thousands of pounds that, as a local authority, they just don't have. They may decide that it's not worth it, given the way in which this decision that was handed down here seems to be very decisive in the wording from this High Court judge, Mr. Justice Mould.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, using cogni.com/GB News in the description now.
In this hour, yes, Essex...
Here comes the advert. They only take a couple of seconds. I don't monetise my channel.
Has lost its bid for a High Court injunction to block asylum seekers being housed in the Bell Hotel in Epping.
Well, joining us now is Branch Secretary of Reform UK, Epping Forest, Karen McKeever. Karen, this is very, very disappointing because I personally thought you might win this one.
Yeah, it really is. First of all, thank you for having me on. It is.
Now, were they saying, I thought you might have won this one? No. Let's think about it like this. Keir Starmer is a lawyer. That is what he used to do. He was a human rights lawyer. In fact, he used to stick up for people like Jimmy Savile. He used to stick up for people like these migrants. That's why he wants these migrants coming into this country. So when they get into this country, they get to see a specialist that basically turns around and says, here's 5 stories, pick one, and this will go towards your asylum claim. They'll pick 2 of the stories, and this has been proven because it's on another video on YouTube, and they'll pick 2 of those stories and stick to them stories, even though they're completely untrue, and they're allowed to stay in the country, in a hotel at the taxpayer's expense. People that go out to work every single day, that are already living on a shoestring, that are wondering whether they're going to be able to give the kids a Christmas meal this year. I bet they get a Christmas bloody meal of their choice. Plus they get new trainers, new clothes and everything else as soon as they come into the country. It's absolutely disgusting. I'm absolutely sick and sodding tired of it. And usually the ones that disagree with me are ones without children who have got liberal-minded idiots with parents that are champagne socialists that have managed to afford to send their kids to university and things like that. They've got to have something to do at university when they grow up and get a girlfriend and everything else and realise the way of the world. They'll probably change their minds.
So shocking. I mean, my heart goes out to the family as always. You know, the wonderful people of Epping, the wonderful community in Epping. We have been peacefully protesting since July, and you know, it's just banging your head against a brick wall. It's why the government, they had an opportunity here to show that they're listening to their people and that they're in touch. Instead, you know, they're not supporting us. They don't care about us. That's how it feels. And we're just let down again. And it's really worrying, you know.
I tell you what, it's also sort of really worrying is the government wanting to put in Sharia law and things like that in Great Britain, how they protect the Muslims, and they're very anti-Semitic. Now, what I mean by anti-Semitic is against Jewish people. Just recently, a few weeks ago, there was a mosque, or it was a car outside a mosque, that was set fire to in Brighton. They tried to say it was the actual mosque. Now, let me give you a little bit of a backstory on this. The Muslims that were in that mosque were actually opening up something called a crowdfunder to raise £250,000 to get out of debt a couple of months beforehand. And then what they thought to themselves, well, because that hasn't worked, what we'll do is an insurance job. Got somebody to set fire to a car at the front of the mosque. Them two people were in that mosque at the time. And then they came out and basically went, oh, look, a fire. This must be a racial attack or something along those lines. And yeah, that's how it went. And then guess what the government did? Gave them 10 million quid to protect Muslim communities. Now, let's have a look at a synagogue in Manchester where a Muslim man named Jihad decided to go up and kill two men with a knife. And what protection did they get? Did they get £10 million to protect the synagogues and things like that? Did they? Plus all those people that were stabbed on a train, plus the people that was also stabbed all around the country and everything else. Do they get £10 million to help towards protection? No, they don't. Why? Because we have an anti-Semitic, racist government. That is why, because they're a communist, Stasi, Marxist government. Look up the Fabian Society on YouTube and see what that is and see who the members are. You've got people like Tony Blair, Keir Starmer, who are all in the Fabian Society. It's literally a wolf in sheep's clothing. I think you'll find I'm right. I mostly fact check everything I say.
People in the community are worried. It's just, what next? You know, what next? It's just shocking. You especially today of all days, of all the days today. I mean, I've just come from an amazing remembrance service with the local community and the children, and you know, it just. I just don't understand the logic. It's wrong on every level. It's next to a school, which is why we've been peacefully protesting. There's trouble all over the country with these hotels, but this particular hotel is next to a school. And
now, where are we as far as this goes in Melton Mowbray? Well, we did have a migrant hotel. And it was shut down around 2022, I believe it was. And then migrants were moved over to Old Dolby, where there's an old army, it's like an old army place with houses. They're still doing houses up over there at this particular time. I've been over, I've looked, I've took a walk around the place. I did do a video, but it got taken down. I will be taking another visit to go and do another recording. And we've also now got confirmed another 70 migrants moving into Melton. Now, we also had a problem up on West Avenue where some migrants moved into a house and they were right across the road from a child park. I have the video on my phone. I won't show it on YouTube, but these migrants decided it'd be a good idea one afternoon to go and play on the park themselves. All the kids went running off home, wondering what the hell was going on because they were dancing around the park. Now, that wasn't the most shocking part to me. In the video, one of them is wearing something called a keffiyeh. Now, if you don't know what a keffiyeh is something that a terrorist would wear from Hamas. And it was a red and white keffiyeh. I believe it's the Turkish keffiyeh. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that's what they were wearing. And they were dancing around the park like they'd won the bloody lottery. Anyway, there was some trouble at that end of town up on West Avenue. Some windows were broken whilst the migrants were looking through people's windows at the back of houses and things like that, which is true because I've been told by certain individuals up that end of town. The locals were quite, let's just say, concerned for the safety of their families. Anyway, they were moved out. Apparently they're back up there now. So I'm going to be investigating that. Now, if you go and take a look on my channel, I also took a walk up towards Ankle Hill, Burton Road, Ankle Hill area in Melton. There's a lot of empty single bedroom flats around that area, of which you wouldn't need a licence for, would you? And apparently people have been followed home. So you can see where the concern actually comes from and why people are concerned. I get contacted by people and families all the time worrying about this type of thing going into their area.
And for some reason, that doesn't seem to matter.
I think everyone can empathise with the struggle, frankly, that so many people in Epping have been, and it's been cross-party as well. I mean, it seems that there is not a single person, not a single local resident who actually says that this is the best place to put refugees, even if you believe that refugees should be housed on the public purse.
Well, for a start, they're not refugees, they're illegal migrants, so I would disagree with what he's saying there. People need to start saying it as it is. It's an illegal migrant, not an irregular migrant, not a refugee. A refugee will enter the country with a passport, we know who they are, and they're usually fleeing something along the lines of persecution or war. So GB News, shame on you for actually saying that, but that is the truth and that is actually what's happening, and we want this not to happen in Melton before it gets too bad. This has been Street Switch Photography. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Go and hit the notification bell so you get my next live video. At this very second as we speak, Remembrance Day is uploading to YouTube from Sunday. Obviously, I had the ban for a week on YouTube because I do say it as it is. And yeah, that's being uploaded now. Let's roll the outro. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
And I hope you let me in, yeah.